Hello, and welcome back to the Half a Wire Wrapping channel. I hope everybody had a really happy Thanksgiving and that you got some relaxation in. I took the week off from doing any videoing just for the holiday, so I am back and hopefully I can get my groove back. So today we're going to work on wrapping a tumbled stone. You can get these gorgeous tumbled stones in any kind of a rock store, or if you go to those cavern visits, sometimes they'll have like piles of stones that you can get a grab bag really cheap. The only problem with wrapping these kind of stones is that they might be polished, but they're certainly not cabochons. As you can see, this one's a really chunky one. You'd probably want to do a weave around this one. And certain ones you can do a wrap, or you could do prong settings. This one has a beautiful flat back, and this one's a brecciated jasper, which we're going to do today. When you're using a tumbled stone, you want to look for whatever side is, obviously you want the pretty side, but you also want the side that's going to sit against the chest the best. And while this isn't exactly flat, it is kind of flat. And it also looks like it's got a sort of a chunk out of it on the back, but that's okay because that's the back. I plan to make this the bottom and this the top, and there's a reason for that. We're going to wrap it differently than in my previous videos because we can't just do a wrap on the bottom and then bring it up and tie it around, because you really have to secure it better because it's longer. It's about 1.5 inches long. And it's also oddly shaped. It doesn't have any particular roundness to the sides or anything, which most cabochons do. I'm going to show a little different way on how to do this, and I hope you can pick up yourself up some of these gorgeous stones, even if you don't wrap them. They're absolutely beautiful. Let's get started. So I've cut about 12 inches, 3 dead soft raw copper wire that's square, about 12 inches, and it's 20 gauge. And I'm going to put in the materials list what I use, but because this is an unusual tumbled stone, you have to gauge it, like this is longer, this is like 1.5 inches. If you have a smaller stone, you might want to only use 10 inches of wire. 12 inches might be overkill even for this, but I just wanted to be safe for the video. So what I'm going to do here is take these wires, and I'm going to take them all at once, making sure they're lined up, and just kind of gently wrap them, hopefully not making too many unsightly curves here, but just kind of gently wrap them around the circumference of the stone. Just kind of get an idea and try to kind of press it in. And what we're going to do is, rather than wrap the bottom, what we normally would do, is I'm going to wrap right around the sides here. And what that's going to do is create a little gap at the bottom for the wire. And we're going to move the wire. So I've cut a few pieces. I'm thinking you might need 4. We'll see how this goes because I'm just kind of winging this today. But a few pieces these are 3 inches long. It's probably too long, of dead soft, half round 22 gauge copper wire. And I'm going to do maybe 6 wraps around, making sure, of course, that the round part is on the outside and this is the flat part, which will be on the inside of your wraps. And just kind of hold on to one end as you wrap it around, and take your, I didn't tell you the tools because of course I'm out of my mojo here. So the basic tools, and these are the basic tools you'll use on virtually any wrap. Nice set of tweezer nose pliers. This was an Italian set of flush cutters that I got. They're very nice flush cutters. You also need some wire straighteners, and you may need, depending on what kind of curves we're going to put into the wires to secure your stone, you might want a pair of flat nose pliers, and you may want a pair of bail making pliers. Don't know if you'll need tweezers, but they're my go-to for everything. And it's good to have round nose pliers. I also have a little measuring device. You may or may not want to use that. And I've got about I think 12 inches of half round for the bail. So that again may be too much, but better too much wire than too little, is what I always say. And you can always save your scraps and hopefully recycle them. And as I go, I need to straighten it out more because it keeps crawling on top of each other. So I think that might be, I think that's 5, so I'll do one more. And this one I'm going to cut right there. And I'm going to tuck that under. Now don't squish them down hard yet, because you want to make sure that you're going to move them where you want them to be. I'm going to do one more wrap here, come around, and then I'm going to snip that off. And the snipping, of course, should be on the underside where the inside of the wires will be, so you won't see those snip marks. And probably we're going to move this down as close to the bottom without being on the bottom as we can. Then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Got just enough there to, sorry if I'm going off screen here, got just enough there to tuck that inside, and that's 3 wraps. And then 4, 5, 6. Okay, snip that there, tuck it in, and squish them together. Make sure it's tucked all the way down. Okay, now we've got a couple of wraps. We've got our wires secured together. And now we can kind of play with really shaping this around the stone. So it's going to be shaped a little bit differently. And one thing you can do, and I didn't say this in the beginning, is have some masking tape. That will help a lot. You can take that. I usually snip it in half there because it's so thick, but you can put the masking tape on the back. And now if one side is already against the stone like this, then I'll tape that down. I won't tape the other side down until I get the wires shaped around the stone. So you really want to push down as close to the bottom as you can get, and then kind of just use your hands and gently press these wires against the stone. And if there's a bend, you press them against the bend. So when it's tightened up, you're going to see it's pretty much shaped to the stone, hopefully. And now I'm going to tape that tight against the stone. And you can see it's still, you know, because of the shape of the stone and everything, it's still, and I actually think I want to take these wires and just kind of do this because they're bending toward the back there. Okay, so now that you got that, we're not going to do anything here yet. I'm going to go up here and we're going to try to bend. So we bent this around this first little thing. Then we're going to bend it a little bit toward where it's going to bend at the top. And then we're going to do, since this one doesn't have really much of a bend on the side, we're just going to kind of gently bend these over the top, making sure that they're still lined up. Okay. And that's a good time to press your wires in a little bit. So what I'm going to do now, there's only one bend on this side and none on this. I still am going to need some support, so I still might do some wraps right around there, and we'll see how this plays out. Now you might need to push this back a bit again because you need room to do your wraps. So I'm taking another piece of the half round. So I'll just do this, maybe one wrap here, just to get that going, and then Gently push it on there. Try not to get it stuck on the tape. And that should be good for wrapping that behind there. When I'm ready, that's 3 right there. So let me do that, and so that'll be 4. Did I overlap? I might have overlapped. See, I can see what I'm doing with my hands with my glasses changed, but I can't see what's on the screen, which is always an issue. So yes, I think I did overlap something. Okay, let me straighten those out. All right. So that is 4 wraps. And that'll be 5. If I can get it nice and tight. And then if I don't get it stuck under the tape. Right. So now you will have to pull it back a little bit so you can cut your wires and tuck them under. And just make sure everything's nice and tight. I'm gonna have to snip this just a wee bit. And this one I'm gonna get under there. And snip. Hope you saw that. And then press it down under, tuck it under. This one has to be tucked under here. Press it all nice and tight. And there you have your 6. Is it 6 wraps? Oh God, it's only 5. Okay. Well, this is what happens when I can't see. It's only 5, but it'll be fine. So we're going to do that. And then just for symmetry's sake, I'll just do 5 on the other side. Not sure on the other side if I'll do an additional wrap because there's a lot of space, but we'll see, maybe not. I think I'll be okay. So I'm going to have to move this tape though, because I'm going to have to do my wraps a wee bit lower. So I'm just going to move some of that tape down, and then I'll take my last piece of, told you I'm just winging this. I'm not, I have no idea what I'm doing right now. So I know that's just what you want to hear when you're trying to watch a tutorial, is that the person showing you just doesn't know what they're doing. But that's the joy of experimenting with art, is that you will see how things turn out when you try. That's not always a good thing, but hopefully it will be at the end here. Something will turn out good. If I can keep that tape from getting in the way, of course. Okay. Ugh, pull. Okay. And I gotta make sure that these guys are going to be snug. Probably cut that. Okay, that looks good. Okay. Go back under. And then as you push these things under, you kind of curl the wire, like go like that with your pliers, because that will make the wire move the way you want it to. It took me a while to learn how to manipulate the wire to get it to go underneath things when it's like, why won't you go underneath? And twisting your wrist to get the wire, once it's gone under, you can keep twisting and pulling through, if that makes any sense. And let's see, so I'm going to go back under here, snip that somewhere, and then I have to tuck this under. And tuck that under. Okay, and then squish them together best you can. Okay, so now you want to just make sure they're kind of even with each other, although it still could be an issue if they're not. if you don't add another one, I mean. And since these got a little bit wonky, I'm just gonna, first of all, I have to make sure they're not bunchy, which they appear to be yet again. And I don't know how that got so bunchy, but they did. They got bunched up. Okay, there, not bunchy. Now that I've unbunched, I can take this and just kind of do a little straightening. And if you scratch your wires, which I tend to do, you can always take some really fine sandpaper or get one of those nice file things and you can clean up the scratches. And if it's copper like this, you may want to oxidize it too, which will help hide some of the scratches. Okay, so before I really try to separate these wires out, I think I'm going to begin the bail so that there's some security up here. And I'm gonna now you can see the point of the top is there, and you would maybe think that's where you want your bail to go directly like that above the point, but the point is off to the side, to the right, so, or to your left, whichever you're seeing. So that would be, it wouldn't hang right. So I actually am going to go down over the point, and then about midway from where the bottom of the stone would be, I will do the bend for the bail. And do the same thing here. There's no point, but see if I can get this to match. I hope I can get these to match. Okay, so try and get them straight. Try to get them bending up across from one another. Okay, so this is what we have thus far. And you can see that there's quite a bit of stone on this side and not very much on this side. So we are going to have to do a little bit of bendiness, but I'm going to start wrapping this bail to make things a little bit more secure. It's not really going to secure it as much as you might like it to. And once again, my eyeballs are telling me one thing and the reality is telling me something else. Okay, once you get that sort of basically wrapped around, then make sure your wires are all standing straight and lined, and then wrap again. And I like to hold on to one end somehow. Okay, and then maybe do it, I'm going to try to pull it a little bit tight and maybe do it one more wrap to help keep things straight. And actually this should be bent up a little bit. This little bit can go under there just to snug everything down. Okay, now comes the moment of truth where we're going to have to start doing a little bit of separating on these wires, and that's going to be tricky because of how things are. So, and everybody has a different way of doing things, and I'm not saying mine is the best or the right one. It just is the one I do. So I take this, if you didn't see what I just did, sorry, take that and bend it back against the stone, and then I'm going to just kind of press it. Okay, then I'm going to do the same thing in the front, because and that is where tweezers might come in handy, because my wires have gotten super friendly with each other. Okay, all right, so then just try to, as gently as you can, and I'm not the most gentle of people, but just gently as you can, try to pull it over and try to make sure your wires are as lined up as they can be with each other before you do this, which I didn't do. Now you can leave it like that, sort of a little swirly thing, or you could make a really sharp bend upward to make a point, literally. So I might do that. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if it'll look good or not. And I have to go on both sides to try to do that. It's not going to look super sharp, but it's going to look like I meant to do it. Okay, so that's one part. So I think I will do the middle part and hope for the best. Okay, and it's very important to hold on tightly to every other wire as you move anything. You know, whenever you move anything, it affects everything else. So hold on tight while you know, maybe take your tweezers to separate these guys who want to be close friends, and right around in between the two wraps. Just kind of do something similar, which is not actually, I've only got one good thumbnail. That's a long story. I don't even, well, it's not really a long story, but it's like for some reason I split my right thumbnail and it will never grow back right. So it keeps growing back with a split. So I only have one thumbnail. So I have to be really careful about pulling things with my one thumbnail. I don't want to lose that one. So see, things are starting to move about. One thing you can do while you're doing this to make your life a little easier is to take another piece of tape. Okay, so I'm going to try to tape this around the top part. And unfortunately, I've taped over my wraps. Here we go. Once again. Okay, hang on to everything really tightly. And then just kind of give that a little bend back as far as you can. And go up to the front. Separate it out with your nail or with your tweezers. Keep your fingers in front of the wires. You don't want anything pulling off. And this is why it's tricky when you're not using a cabochon, is you have to be constantly aware of where all your wires are and keep everything as still as possible except for what you're pulling on. Okay, there we go. Now we're going to go and try to do this on the other side without making ourselves go nuts. And what happened here? Okay. Okay, so I'm going to separate these out. Once again, getting my tweezers. It's not easier to use, you know, really thin tweezers than to try to stick these tweezer nose pliers in there. So this is going to be, because this is so wide here, we might want to actually, you know, unsymmetricalize, if that's a word, that area, because we're going to probably have to stretch this wire a bit farther back. Hopefully it's going to keep things in place, but we shall see. I'm going to just turn it this way. And the front, I'm going to try to get the bend to be symmetrical. All right, so this is what we have so far. Okay. There was a method to my madness. It may not have seemed like it. So now we're going to take this tape up, hopefully for the last time. Did I say op? I meant off. And here comes the stone falling out yet again. Okay. All right. Stick you back where you belong. And this final bit should secure your stone so it won't be popping out anymore. You're going to have your bail, but we're not going to quite do that. Actually, maybe we will, because after we do the bail, it might be easier to secure these front areas. Now, press down with your pliers if you need to get these wires to hug your stone. You want them to be as friendly with the stone as they've been with each other. So I think I will go ahead and do this bail now. You want to make sure everybody's lined up so that it looks like there's, you know, the three right guys and the three left guys are all you know, cozying up alongside one another as aligned as they can be. I will make the middle wires the bail because that will tighten up the wires that'll be in the middle, which is they'll be the most supportive wires, I think. The back wires will not be quite as supportive, in my opinion. Okay, so just trying to grab this, trying to stay on camera as I do this, but it's not easy. We also want to make sure these wires are all snuggy looking, making sure that the wires you have for the center, you know, that you haven't crisscrossed anything, that this is the center wire here and this is the center wire here. You don't want to use a center and a back wire or vice versa. Okay, so now that we've got that going, this is still the back here. I'm going to try and just pull this wire back a little bit. You have to be careful. You don't want to hurt yourself, but you want to pull that wire back enough that you can kind of bend it back against the stone to lock the stone in a little bit there, and also bring it in more here because we're trying to make sure the stone doesn't decide to leave town. We want it to stay around. We like it and we want it to stay. Okay, so, and then hopefully we've not messed up the front. And if these guys need to come around to the front a little bit, then you should help them be front and center. Okay, all right, so you take these wires that will not be the bail, and you're gonna have to move this so that it's right around the middle, not around the back. Okay, so what we got here, actually this should go here. So what we have here, we're going to be starting our bail, and seriously, I might actually speed this one up for you because I'm already rambling way too much. Okay, I'm back, and it's a good thing that I sped this up because it would have driven you insane. But I'm done, and I'm back. In case you didn't catch that, I bent this forward toward me and then bent it back over. Okay, so there I had about an inch of, a little more than an inch and a quarter for my bail. I made my bail a little longer than usual just because it's such a long stone to make it more balanced. And I'm going to take these, and this is going to make the wires more secure before I bend them at the top. I'm going to take these, and actually I'm going to wrap both of them, but I want to first pull these out a bit because once you wrap it tight, these wires aren't going to move. They're going to be like, what are you doing? I'm tied up here. So pull it out as far as you want, and then do the same thing on the other side. And you can't hear him, I hope, but my cat is talking to me because he thinks I'm talking to him. He doesn't know that I'm just talking to you guys. But he's a talker. He comes up and he's like, oh, oh, don't you pay attention to me? What are you doing? Okay, so see how that wire is moving as I move this part. probably want to move this down like about as much as you want it to go before wrapping. But once you wrap, you've tightened everything up and you won't have to worry that it's going to get loose in any possible way. First, also straighten this guy up because it's not looking quite as straight as it should have been. Sometimes I just trail off and I don't finish my sentences. Sorry about that. So if you can see what I'm doing, which you probably can't, I've cut just enough to tuck in the back, and then I'm just pressing down like that. Okay, so that side's done. This side, same thing. And just enough to tuck it, past the first wire. It doesn't have to be tucked super far in. Sorry, I also say a lot. I try to edit those out as much as I can. And straighten up your bail. Okay, hopefully you saw what I did there. These guys are tightened up. All right, so now this is the back actually. And maybe try to even these out so they're kind of looking symmetrical, but it's not a huge deal because I think I'm going to do some loops or something. Okay, so now that that's all secure, take this and just kind of give it a, actually I'm going to use these again. Just try to give it kind of a bend down to help secure the stone. And this one is a very sharp bend, so we might want to just get kind of a bigger sharp bend here just to kind of even it out. And on the back, we do want to make sure, oops, see, that's dangerous. Pliers can slip and you can hurt yourself, so be careful. I have certainly gouged myself on more than one occasion. And let's see, do the same thing to the back. Press it down, same thing here on the back. Press it down. Okay. And it looks a little crazy, but a lot of people like the more interesting look of the lack of symmetry. The symmetry isn't always what people want. And so you can make it sort of symmetrical, but when you have an oddly shaped stone, that's not necessarily going to work. Okay, so that part is done. The stone is secure. It's not going anywhere, and that's the goal. Make sure your stone's not going anywhere. Okay, and now we can do something fun if we want. We can maybe, I don't know, just choose your own, whatever you like. I'm going to just go ahead and do a couple of loopity dupes here, whatever you want to call them. And take those around the back. For the one from the back, I might actually sort of have it go around and go down and come back up. And you want to just, as you do this, if you don't feel like you can make your circles perfect, use, and they don't have to be perfect, but if you want them to be more or less round, you can use your bail making pliers. Okay, and you can either take this around, tie it in the back somewhere, or you can snip, and then you can take some of the half round wire and tie it on there to secure it, which I think that's what I'm going to do there. And I usually use the flush cutters when I'm making a circle like that. But the flush side on the outside, because I want a little bit of an angle for pressing that into that. And let's see if we can bring this down, make it a little prettier. So probably want to bring that in and then back out. And I'm going to snip these guys off in the back. Sometimes it's hard to know when to stop when you're making swirls and curls and things, because you want it to be pretty, but then it's like, oh my gosh, it looks like a crazy person went to town on curls here. You don't want that. So hopefully you can see I snipped it off and I'm going to tuck it in. Hopefully I didn't leave too much there, but I don't think you'll see it in the front. Hopefully, yeah, you won't see it. So take it back. Whoops. Press it down. Press it in tight. The same thing with the top wire. Press it down tight. Okay. And if it's moved a bit forward, you can always press it back some. So for this side, I think I might just do like one little curl that way. Kind of press it so it's looking like a full curl. Press it down. And then I will probably, let's see. I was thinking of doing a little bit of a curl here, but yeah, I'll probably just wrap it through because it has to be secured somehow. So I think I'm just going to take that, snip it there, and then I can secure it behind the bail. But it's a little bit long, so I'm going to cut a little bit more off. Just have to use caution when trying to get it wrapped around. You don't want it to be. So there we go. It's wrapped in the back. And then straighten our bail up a little bit, just because you don't want too much bulbousness when the person's going to be wearing it. It's already bulbous due to the nature of this stone, but okay. So clean up my mess here. This is it. This is backwards. That is it. Thank you once again for your patience with my insane ramblings, and this turned out pretty good for something I did not have any clue what I was doing. I did forget, though, one last thing, and I'm just going to take a piece of this scrap half round, and I'm just going to secure that because you don't want that flopping around. So you just want to make sure that it's got a secure place to be. I decided to spare you the tedious fiddling with that little tiny piece of wire. Anyway, it is finished and it is not perfect. It's tumbled stone. I'm going to oxidize it. I will show you how it looks when that's done. And I would greatly appreciate it if you would like and subscribe to my channel, because it helps me to keep this going for the long term. So I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll be back as soon as I can. Take care.